The promise of having an entire adventure game in an 18 card deck, one that has night travel and storms and poisons and ranged attack and freezing effects, it's a pretty big promise for a pretty small deck of cards. This is Dragons of Etchinstone. It's an original game by Joe Klipfel. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Sorry if I'm doing that incorrectly. He is the creator of a number of shrink card game board games, including a shrink game, Mist Small, that was based on Mistfall, one based on Mage Knight, one based on Gloomhaven, and others. But this is an original design, and we're going to take a look at it here. I've played it a bunch. It has very clever packaging because as you open up the card holder, you get some very basic information about the sequence of play. You do need, there's a rule book that you need to either print out or at least reference, and it's pretty lengthy for what the game is. There are, on this reference card, though, some key pieces of that. So once you know what the rules are, you can sort of play just with the rule book. And there's a link to it here, so you could just do it digitally if you didn't want to print it out. I thank the designer for sending me this copy of the game to show to you. It is a game in 18 cards, and I'm going to just show you, do a little demo here of what the gameplay is, but a discussion overall of the concept of the game is that you are traveling through a world. You are a brave mage and working your way through 4 regions and a challenging final encounter against one of 4 different dragons. You are going to be using action cards that you have during the game and that you will upgrade during the game through the experience you get to prepare yourself for that final dragon encounter. And you need to defeat the dragon to win. There are different ways to lose the game. The basic setup of the game, if you're familiar with Mage Knight, you'll be a little bit familiar with some of the concepts in this game in terms of how the cards are working. You have abilities on the cards that have a greater ability that needs to be triggered by a similarly colored card in your hand of 4. So you will be having a hand of 4 cards for each turn, and looking through your cards, there's going to be 3 active cards that you'll be using, one that you will hold back, and you will be choosing a card that is the leader card, and the leader card is going to give you one of these 2 actions. You can use the buffed up action if you have a card that you can use and match the color. That becomes your ether card. So if you, for example, wanted to do a walk action of 5 and you use this yellow card as ether, that would be the usage of that card. You would also then get 4 initiative from that card. So the ether card gives initiative as well. And then the last card that you choose is for the boost value. And the boost value is the number down here. Now in this case, the boost value of these 2 cards is the same. You would make a determination based on what card you wanted to remain unused and therefore carry over a turn. The boost value can be assigned either to your main action. So for example, we could assign the boost value of 5 to give us a walking action of a total of 10 in this hand, or we could assign this 5 to the initiative to give us an initiative of 9, but then our walking value would only be 5. So the boost assignment can either go to the main action or the initiative, but not both. That is the central mechanic of the game. There are some other effects that could allow you perhaps to use a second boost action, but in essence, for the turn, you are using and discarding 3 cards. You are cycling through your deck and slowly upgrading it. You can see here the number 4, number 3, 2, 1, these represent upgrades and downgrades of mechanisms on the card. And as you have your encounters, there's 2 types of encounters. There are little monsters that you encounter, as well as journeys that you will take. The value here in the green are the experience points that you get if you have a certain level of success with the encounter. You can then use those experience points, so in this case 7, for example, to say this was your hand of cards, to figure out how you would apportion that to upgrade this deck. So for example, with those 7 experience points, you could upgrade Determined March for 5 experience points into this version of Determined March, which is the highest level. As well, you'd have the 2 points left over. You could take your Fleet-Footed and upgrade from 1 to 2 and have this be then the deck of cards or the hand of cards that you were left with. Or you could decide you don't have to use all of those points. You could decide I'm just wanted to upgrade my Rain of Blood for 3 and do it that way. I think I just downgraded it. That's a flip over, and do it that way. So that is essentially what you're doing to play the game on what is known as what is called just the regular difficulty. You begin by having your deck of cards here at level 2. So every card that you are starting with is at level 2. And if you're familiar with any of these kinds of shrink games and games that make use of cards in multiple ways, it's extremely important while you're playing the game to maintain the orientation of the cards, especially when you are shuffling and things like that. And I noticed as I was playing this game, I had a habit of just turning my deck over when I put it down. I didn't even realize that was something I did until I started doing it with this game and then picking it back up and realizing I was confused on what was actually my value. Because as you go through the game, you will be upgrading certain of these cards. Now, one other thing I'll say about this game and other games by this designer is that they are meant to be played in hand, meaning you have the capacity to hold the entire deck while you're playing. You need no table space. I don't play that way. In this game, I think, well, first of all, being left-handed, it made some of the values awkward because I wanted to hold everything in my right hand, and it didn't really work for me. Just in general, that's not really why I would be attracted to a game like this. It's more just the portability of travel when you get somewhere than like playing and standing online or something. But I will say it's designed to be played in hand, and you are meant to be having this stack here showing the encounters you're having. I think the dragon goes in the back, something like along these lines. I'm not going to show it to you that way. It's just not how I played it. So the first thing you're going to do is you could either randomly or by intention decide on the dragon that you're going to be fighting at the end. We have the gray dragon here on top. And you begin, there are 4 areas in the world: the Jade Mountains, the Living Marshes, the Burning Basin, and the Forests of Goth. And you go through these 4 areas to get to the dragon. How do you know you're through an area? When your deck of cards runs out. So you begin with Area 1, the Jade Mountains, even though all of your cards on the regular level are level 2. You draw your hand of 4 cards, and you have your draw deck here. This column is what you read to determine what type of encounter you're having. So in this outset of this game, the first thing that's going to happen is we will be encountering the first column of the first enemy encounter. So we will be encountering this little fellow here. He's got 7 health. We will get 4 experience if we defeat him, and he has an initiative of 8, an attack of 1 yellow, and a shield of 1 yellow. There are a couple of ways to get that experience. The first way is to just have a complete victory in combat. What that means is we would reach an attack level of 7 or greater, as well as an initiative level of 8 or greater. We would suffer no attack back from him, and it would be a complete victory, and we would simply get those 4 experience points. Another way is to have a partial victory. A partial victory means that you get yourself to half or more of the value of the health of the opponent, even if you don't completely kill him. In that case, you would still get the experience, but you would also take some damage here. So we are, again, he's got an initiative of 8. The initiative that we are working with is going to come from the ether card that we choose, the supporting card that we choose. We may not have the possibility of boosting an attack. So, for example, this attack is a gray attack. We don't have any gray cards. This attack is a blue attack. We could boost it with this blue card, and if we did so, we could have 5 attack, which is greater than half of 7, so that's partially toward that partial victory. But our initiative would only be 1, and he's got an initiative of 8. The only boosting cards we have here are a +2 or a +3. So no matter what we do here with this combination, we're going to lose on initiative and have to take that initiative combat damage, and possibly also lose on, let's see, we could boost. Well, so for example, if we assign the boost to the attack with this yellow card, if we played this way, this is our leader card for 5 attack. We boost that 5 attack to 7, so we completely destroy him. Our initiative is a loss here at 5. We're going to lose initiative and take that damage. The other way to do it would be to assign the boost to initiative, but we're still at 8. We can't reach that 8. We could change it up and fail on the attack, but we could succeed on the initiative by 5 + 3. That would be 8 initiative, which would match his 8 initiative. So it really, the damage that you're going to take in this instance is going to be the same. So there's really no difference in the damage that would be taken. It's going to be 1 point of either initial damage or combat damage. It's really a question of which card I want to keep in my hand. The only information that I know is that this blue card is coming into my hand next turn. So I do have, that is free knowledge. So I know there's the potential for a red leader attack or a blue elemental support. And with what I've got left here, that's it really doesn't matter. So I think I'm going to go with my leader card here with 5 attack. I'm going to go with the initiative of 1. I want to retain this card in my hand because it has some flexibility of either movement or attack. And I am going to use this as the boost to my attack for 7, and I will take the initiative damage because I can't make that initiative. So I'm going to take 1 point of damage, and the way I absorb that is by downgrading a card. These are the shield values, and I'm taking yellow damage. So if the shield value matches the color of the damage you're taking, you can actually absorb 2 times the amount. Now, in this case, it doesn't matter because I'm only taking 1 point of damage, so it's 1 downgrade. But if it were, say, 3 points of damage, of yellow damage, I could absorb all of that with the 1 downgrade. If I didn't have the yellow and I was taking 3 points of damage, I would need to downgrade 2 cards because I could downgrade. I could absorb 2 here, but I would still have 1 left over. I needn't match the color if I don't want to. It's really a question of which card I want to downgrade. And in this particular case, I think I'm going to, well, I actually think I am going to downgrade this card anyway. So I've downgraded this to 1. I keep this in the same orientation. I discard this hand and I draw up to 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I refer to this card as what's known as the reference card to show me the next encounter. It's going to be journey number 2. Journey number 2 in the Jade Mountains is this little place here. I need to come up with 8 movement, and I have a penalty of 1 time if I fail that, and I will get 3 experience if I succeed. I realize I forgot to upgrade use my 4 experience, so let me go back and very carefully, I could upgrade a card. The only card I cannot upgrade is the one I just downgraded. I have 3 experience to use, and I won't deal with that 4th card because I don't want to make a mistake. I think I will upgrade my ice wall. So I'm going to use my experience, upgrade now. Oops, that was the wrong way. Sorry, use my experience, turn over, very helpful icon I didn't see, and now I have the better version of ice wall. Okay, back to my hand here. So I need to travel through with 8 movement. Can I get to 8 movement points? There's no initiative here, and I can see pretty quickly I can't get to 8 movement because my biggest movement here is this 5. This red 5 could be used with this as the element. This is gray, a movement of 5, so either one of these, let's see. Actually, the problem is I need this boost of 3. I need the boost of 3 with the 5 movement, and the cards are not going to let me do that because I need to get to this 5 movement, I have to use this card as the element, which means I cannot use it as the booster. And if I am using this gray card for the 5 movement with this gray element, I don't have 3 as a booster. So I'm just like, no matter what, I'm short. I can get close, so it's going to be the same situation. I will get the benefit of the experience, but I am going to take a penalty. And in this case, the penalty is time, meaning I draw a card off the top of the deck. Why is that bad? Well, when you get through this deck, you need to move to the new area, and you want to have as many encounters before you do that to get as much experience as you can to upgrade your deck, because your success in fighting the dragon at the end is going to be directly related to how much you've been able to upgrade your deck. But I think no matter what I do here, I'm just going to be short. So I'm going to choose to do my Burning Bridges as my leader card with my red element to give me that 5 movement. And I will be using these cards. I'll just use this 1 + 1 to make it 6 movement. That's not quite enough. This is going to be my the 3 cards that I discard for my can't remember what it's called, but I put the name of it here, action. And I will take the 1-time penalty, meaning draw this into my discard pile. I forgot again. Let me upgrade. I got my 3, let's go back. I have my 3 experience points to use, and I will use them to upgrade Rain of Blood here. Okay, discard, and I draw 1, 2, 3 cards, and we see that our next encounter is a journey, and there is an impact here, and that means we go to the reference card. That is the night travel minus initiative from the booster. So what that means is we need to subtract the booster amount rather than add the booster amount, because we're going at night, and we are going for in the area of this. We need 11 movement. That's a lot. 2-time penalty, and it is 4 experience. So we don't have a great situation here at all. We're just not going to make anything. We just don't have a lot of movement, and I don't even think we can get to 6, 7, 8 because of the booster. This is going to be a this is going to be, no matter what, just a failure. We're going to lose these 2 time penalties, and we're not going to get the experience, because there's no way of my manipulating these cards, I don't think, to get to more than half, to get to a movement value of 7, given that we're traveling at night. All right, so fast forward through to the second part of the game. You've done all your traveling. You've successfully made it to the dragon, and you have now in your hands various cards that are upgrades: level 2, 3, 3, 3. Here's a level 4, 4. This represents all the experience and the work that you've done. The first stage of meeting the dragon is called the final journey. And what you're doing is you're shuffling your cards here, again, keeping the orientations the way they are meant to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're drawing the top 7 cards, and you are seeing how much movement you can come up with to get to the dragon. And depending on how successful you are, you will lose less amount of time. So you could lose up to 3 cards in time if you can only reach 19 or less. You can only lose 2 cards off of the remaining stack here if you reach 23, and you will lose only 1 card if you can come up with 29 or more movement. And the reason you don't want to lose cards is this is going to be the hand that you draw to do the second part of the dragon encounter, which is the fighting part. But for right now, what you're meant to do is you have your 7 cards, and you're meant to use them to assemble 2 different action sets. And so you have some flexibility. We see right here is a 12 movement. I'm trying to get as much movement as I possibly can. That would need, but that, unfortunately, I can't use this because I have no blue element here. So that is a bummer. I'm only ever going to be getting 8 of that. And this I find one of the problems in this game. I think this is gray and that's blue. It's so close to me visually. So I think I can use this. If I make my gray the element, I think I can make 9 movement here with a boost. And then I've got this 14. So let's see. If I make this 14 the leader, although that's wasting a boost of 5, but if I make 14 the leader and this is a yellow element here, then I've got my boosters of 3. So let's see, with these 2 sets here, what this gives me is, and it is, movement has a color too. It's gray. So this is 14 plus 3. That's going to be 17 movement plus this 12, right? That's going to be 29 and 30, 31. No, 30, 31, 32. I think that's 32 movement, which is the best I could have done. So there's only discard of 1 card. Let me just make sure that's right. Yep, that's correct. So we came up with 32 movement, which means we only lose 1 time card. So we're going to take this and discard it off the top for the combat. And even though we didn't use this card, we don't keep it. So just all of these now are discarded. And now we are facing the dragon. And what happens here? The dragon does have an initiative of 12. It does a gray attack of 6, and it has 2 shield values, gray shield of 4, blue shield of 3. And then it will also do attack to us, depending on how much attack we can muster against it. So for example, if we can come up with 30 attack against it, we only have to defend against 12. If we can only come up with 26, we defend against 20. If we can only come up with 21, we can't defend against 26. And if we can't ultimately defend it all, we will die. So let's see, again, we have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got We're going to make 2 action sets, but we have some flexibility in these cards because we only lost the 1 card because we had so much movement. So we want to see right away what the most attack values we have are. That's a 10, which could be boosted this way. So we could boost the 10 here, and let's see. Well, not boosted. We could use the 10 with that blue element. The other big attack we have, this is an 11, is our biggest attack. So we would need with a red element, 11 with a red element, and then we are looking for our biggest booster numbers. We have a 4 and a 3. So I think this is the most attack we can get. And let's see, that works out to 11, 15, 25, 28, I think. 28 is going to mean that we have to absorb, well, let's see. Oh, we got to see the initiative too, because if we don't meet that initiative, we're going to get that additional 6 attack. So initiative of 12. If we do it this way, our initiative becomes 6 plus, 6 plus 6 is actually 12. So we did that. We got the initiative of 12 because we're using this as the element. So that's our initiative. That's the element. That's our initiative. And again, the attack value is 11. We're boosting our attack. So 11, 15 plus 25, 26, 27, 28. That is enough to make us have to absorb 20 damage. We don't get any additional attack from the now, one thing though, I'm making a mistake on this because this is a red attack we're doing. The red attack is just going to go through. The blue attack, however, is going to be diminished by 3 because there is a blue shield. So we're actually, I have to recalculate this, that we're doing 11, that's 15. 15 will go through, 25, 26, 27, 28, but only 25 is going through. So in fact, we didn't meet the 26. We only met 25. So we need to absorb now 26 attack, 26 gray attack. If we can't do that, we will lose the game. So let's see, can we absorb 26 gray attack? So we can use all of our cards. I believe we can use these 2 cards here, remembering that the gray cards, gray shields, will absorb 2 times the amount, which is why it's important to be mindful of how you upgrade when you know what your dragon is, and I don't think I really did that. So I'm looking to absorb 26. This is going to absorb 6, 10, 12, 14, 16, 22. That's going to absorb 24 on its own, but I will be able to do this. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to absorb 6 damage there, 6 damage there by downgrading, another 6 damage here by downgrading. That's 12. 16 is absorbed. 18 is absorbed. 20 is absorbed, but I can't downgrade this further, so I got to get rid of the card. So I've absorbed 20 damage. I've absorbed 22 damage. And I've absorbed 28 damage. And that is more than enough to defeat this damage to deflect the damage from the dragon, stay alive, and survive this game. So that gives a pretty thorough overview of most of the way the game works. There's a few other things I didn't show, like going another way, meaning you can decide to not take the challenge that you are facing and instead take a penalty for moving on and trying to do something else. So you could do that, but you lose cards doing that. So you're losing time and you're losing opportunities to upgrade. As you saw when I gave you the demo at the end, it's super important to have as many upgraded cards as possible at the end, or else you just won't be able to come up with these values numerically. You can also regroup during the final journey, which is essentially discarding a card of hands and starting over. And importantly, you can also fuse cards during an encounter. So if you want to, for example, say this is your hand of cards for whatever reason, you want to change the color of them. You can essentially say, meld these two cards together and say, well, let me give a different hand. Let's say this was my hand of cards, like so. And I really wanted to get a blue walking. I could meld these two cards together and say, I'm going to call them blue so that I can use this blue as the element and then have a blue walking, for example. So there's a few little rules like that that I didn't go over, but essentially I think I gave a sense of what the game feels like. There is what I like about it is the kind of mage knighty decision-making feeling where you're making a choice or trying to decide what you're going to boost up and what card you might use to do that boost, and then what sacrifice that means later on because you have used that card, say, and not held it back in your hand, for example, or making a decision about what kind of card to hold back in your hand, thinking, well, I have a feeling I'm going to need to make a journey, so if I have a choice, I'm going to hold back a journey card and seeing whether or not that comes up. And then, of course, the decisions about upgrading, I felt my main strategy for making those decisions was to prioritize upgrading cards that matched the color of the dragon I was fighting, because I know that in the end, that's going to be helpful. So there wasn't a ton of strategy for me in that. I would always prioritize that. And then I usually went and prioritized if I had an attack card, because I felt like I could deal with the time loss more so than I could the downgrading of the cards. It felt to me like as long as I kept my cards at the highest value that they could be, and you would do that by protecting against combat loss, encountering a new area or encountering the dragon sooner was the sort of the lesser of two evils. So on it's 18 cards, and there is a lot that is done with those 18 cards, but in the end it is just 18 cards. So it feels to me, it feels adventure-esque, I guess, is the best way to put it. You don't have a character at all. You have just these cards. So there is a sense of just focusing on the math and not even really reading like, oh, it's Rain of Blood. Like I tried to make myself read those to give that flavor. Okay, I'm being fleet-footed now here with 11 movement, or my motivated flight. I tried to make myself read these things to imbue it with a little more of that adventure flavor, but it is limited in that regard. I think the illustrations are really cute and pleasant, but they're also quite small, and again, you're really just focusing on the numbers. That said, for a travel game, I was recently traveling, although I didn't have this with me when I was traveling, but this is definitely a bring with you when you're traveling kind of game, because you can play it in hand, you can play it if you're waiting online at an airport, or just pop it in your bag to have it for some unexpected kind of delay. And it's a really clever design that when you play one game, you just kind of want to go back and play it again, because I found that my win percentage was actually not that high. I happened to show you an ending here where it didn't seem that hard to get to the dragon, but in most of my games, it's been down to the wire or I've lost. And so to be able to kind of generate that level of excitement, and then at the end, really when you get to like the third region, really just trying to think, well, how should I do this upgrade, or which is the worst type of damage to take? That's that's an impressive game design outcome from such a small deck of cards.